This video is going to introduce all the components of the Fluency course for junior high school first year students. There is a chance that I have forgotten about some components, but I think this is everything that the course involves. Starting over here, these are the speaking cards. So each month, students have 20 questions that they practice using these speaking cards. As you can see, each card has the question number. This allows the students to use the reference sheet to check the meaning, and also example answers that the students are supposed to customize with their own information. You can also see the month, the level, and the set number. Obviously, it's important to keep the sets separate for this. If they get mixed together, having the set number means that you can sort them quite easily. And you need one of these sets of index cards for each pair of students in your class. So if you have a class of 30, you'll need 15 sets, class of 40, 20 sets, and so on. You can use the same sets with different classes. So it's not per student, it's per the maximum class size of student. We normally spend about 20 minutes doing this, but of course that can be customized by each teacher. Next is the workbook, and the workbook uses the same questions as the speaking cards for writing practice. So generally each week or each lesson we'll have the students do 5 of these and they correspond to the 20 monthly cards. So for this activity we'd have the students copy the question first and then on this circle part they'd write their answer customized to their situation, and then this is designed to accommodate students of different levels. So for students that are more able and finish quickly, they're encouraged to write some extra information on the plus line, and for students that take things more slowly, they can just do the basic answers. This takes about 5 minutes for a class. Ideally, the teacher or teachers would rush around and check quickly once students are finished and so on, and also encourage them to write extra things on the plus. Next, let's look at the reference sheet. So each month students would have a reference sheet, so this one is for January, and the reference sheet has all the vocabulary for that month. So there are 15 vocabulary words that students are expected to learn using Quizlet online for each week, and so that's 60 in the month, and we have the English and the equivalent Japanese translation. On the back of the sheet you can see the questions for that month, and these 20 questions correspond to the monthly question cards. The number on the card would correspond to the number on the sheet. This allows students to very quickly check if they're unsure of the meaning of a question. Next, we go on to the course book, as it were. There are actually 3 course books at the moment, 1A, 1B, and originally 1C. But I think due to printing concerns, we'll probably be consolidating these into 2. So 1A and 1B, each covering 6 months. Right now, each book covers 4 months. Let's have a quick look inside. So, in a typical week, let's find the start of a month. Okay, so this will be the June month. And the first thing students will do when they go into this is a vocab test. These are the same words from the reference sheet that the students have, and also the same words from Quizlet. So ideally before class, students have used Quizlet to practice these words. In class, they have a 2-minute vocab quiz where they read the English and they write the Japanese translation next to it. At the end, they would check their score and write it in here. Then we do speed reading. So there are 3 texts each week for the first 3 weeks. Each text for the first 4 months is quite short. The first month only is 45 words, and then the second, third, and fourth months, the texts are roughly 60 words long. So the students would read this, time themselves, and then try to answer the questions. There are lots of ways to adapt this activity, by reading the text aloud, by checking the question meaning in advance, and so on, to make it easier for students who are less able at English. But they'll do these 3 texts like this, each one with its own questions. And we generally do one text at a time, check the answers, and then go on to the next text. After the texts, there are some verb practice resources. Each week there's a different verb, and this is basically just a verb table showing the various forms of the verb. So we start off with the present, then negative, questions, and then we cover a little bit of past tense. For most junior high school first years, this is pretty advanced. This is the kind of thing they cover in the second year, but we find that previewing it helps the students master it later as well. After you read through this, we generally read and repeat with the students. We give them 4 minutes to write as many of these as they can, and they can choose which ones they want to do. So they can choose to do English to Japanese, which is very easy, Japanese to English, which is more challenging, or have a go at the more advanced ones at the bottom. After 4 minutes, they'll check their answers using the answer sheets. In fact, the whole course is designed so that rather than teachers checking the answers, students can check their own answers. For the vocabulary, for instance, they'll use their reference sheet to check. For the verbs, they'll use the verb answer sheet to check. The last activity for each lesson is a conversation. So the first 2 weeks, the students will just read the conversation from the textbook. To spice it up, you can ask the students to memorize the conversation. And then the third week, we have the students write their own conversation. And this is quite good because it really gives them a chance to have a go at using English themselves, creating their own English. And then the key step is that in the fourth week, we choose some of the conversations the students wrote in the third week, type them up, fix the mistakes, and have the students practice them in class. And by having this example of what a good conversation looks like, the students very, very quickly get much better at writing them. And we'll have the students write their conversations on something like this. The course actually is designed so that it levels up every 4 months. So the first time we do this, they only have 6 items. The second time is 8, and then you can take it to 10 later on, as it were. It's mainly the text that level up. So in the B course, we've gone from 60 to 80 words. And then in the C booklet, we've gone to 100 words. And by doing it gradually, the students don't feel it's too unachievable there. There is actually one more component that I've forgotten, which is the record sheets. So the students have a record sheet where they can write down their score for the vocabulary test, their time for the timed reading, their score for the verb exercise, and so on. And that's it. So that is the Fluency course for first year students. I hope that gives you a good idea of what the course involves and what the students will have. And looking forward to any questions. Thanks.